The math notes for section 214 are on finding the graphing form and vertex of parabolas. So, starting with the graphing form of a quadratic, and rewriting it to get standard form is straightforward algebra. But starting with a quadratic equation in standard form and rewriting it to get graphing form is more difficult. We have two strategies to help us rewrite this. We are going to have averaging intercepts. I'm going to write that below so that we can see it a little bit better. And the other one is completing the square. So one example is if we have y equals x squared plus 3x minus 10 and putting it in graphing form. If we want to do it by averaging the intercepts, first thing we're going to do is we're going to solve by setting the equation equal to 0 and then factoring it. We can box and diamond it to help us factor it, but we get x plus 5 times x minus 2. So the x-intercepts are negative 5, 0, and 2, 0. So then we know that we can average them to figure out where they're going to cross the x-axis at. So we do negative 5 plus 2 divided by 2, which is negative 3 over 2. So then we plug negative 3 over 2 back into the original equation, and we end up with a vertex of negative 3 over 2 and negative 49 over 4. That's one method of doing this. The other method is completing the square, which we practiced in class last week. So we make a perfect square from the first part of our expression, or our equation. So we get x squared plus 3x. So when we do that, we put the x squared in, and we know that half of 3x is 1.5 and 1.5x. So we put it at diagonal from each other. And then we figure out that we have x plus 1.5 and 1.5, so we multiply to get 2.25. And then we're going to add that to both sides. So what that does for us is if we have x plus 1.5 and x plus 1.5, we can rewrite it as x plus 1.5 to the second power, which is what they did right here. And that's equal to x squared plus 3x plus 2.25. So when we rewrite the equation, we can say that we can move minus 10 out, so we can have x plus 1.5 to the second power minus this 12.25 because we added that 2.25 back on. Okay. So then down here it just basically gives us this little sentence about how, in general, that the h and k are a times x minus h to the second power plus k are related to the b and c by averaging the two solutions, so we can figure out how we can rewrite the equation to help us out. Okay, but all in all, our equation ended up being x plus 1.5 to the second power minus 12.25. Okay, so let's give this a try. So let's try it both ways. So first we're going to change it to graphing form by averaging to find the vertex. So we know that it doesn't have a number in front of it, so we have no like stretch or compress or flipping over in front of it. So we basically can just factor it. So I'm going to factor it. I know that x and x, I know that 5 times 3 gives me 15, and it also equals 8. So I can factor out to be 5 and 3. So my intercepts are negative 5, 0 and negative 3, 0. So when I average those, I get negative 5 plus negative 3 divided by 2, or negative 8 divided by 2, which is negative 4. So I know that if I plug negative 4 back in, I will find the vertex, and I can use that to write my equation. So I get negative 4 squared plus 8 times negative 4 plus 15. I'm going to get 16 minus 32 plus 15. So negative 16 plus 15, which is negative 1. So I know my vertex is negative 4, negative 1. So if I want to write this in graphing form, I can write it as y equals x plus 4 to the second power minus 1. So that's one way I could get my graphing form. The other way is by completing the square. So I know that I'm going to use x squared plus 8x. And I'm going to complete my square. X squared will go right here. Half of 8x is 4x. So I know that I'm going to get x and x plus 4 plus 4. So I know that I have x plus 4 times x plus 4. So I have x plus 4 squared plus 15. And then 4 times 4 is 16. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add it to both sides, or subtract it from both sides, because I really wanted to get it. I was already going to have moved over my 15. So it already was inside here. That's how I did it. So then I would subtract it from here. So I'm going to subtract 16. So I end up with x plus 4 squared minus 1, which is what I ended up with.